I have tirelessly demonstrated in hundreds of chapters and audio videos the relentless efforts made by the followers of Muhammad to deceive, misinform and mislead Quran ignoramus people about the true or actual meaning of Arabic words, when these words reflect very badly upon the character, deeds or thoughts of Muhammad. Muhammadans assiduously try to prove that their mentor and exemplar, Muhammad, was an almost perfect male being. They also relentlessly sugarcoat the meaning of words to make them sound less offensive and vile. As most of you who have read and or listened to my chapters would know, Muhammad was a child molester, a serial rapist, a pirate of the desert, a mass murderer, a pathological liar, and a debauched creature. His companions and followers tell us in the hadiths and explanations that Muhammad was such an honorable person that he invariably married his female victims. Let me share with you the true facts based on the Arabic language and hadiths, and will leave the final judgment to you individually to decide. Most of you know that language evolves and the meaning of certain words change from era to era. For example, the word gay used to mean merry or happy, which has now become associated with homosexual males, an enormous change in meaning. The same occurs in many languages, including Arabic, of course. Hence, it is vital that we must understand what a word or any word means in the days and times under investigation, which in this case is Muhammad's 7th century pagan Arabia. Once more, I must point out an extremely important piece of information, which is the fact that all that humanity has as knowledge of Arabia prior to, during, and after Muhammad are the one-sided reports bequeathed to us by the victors, Muhammad and his followers, without a shred of any other eyewitness reports to corroborate or substantiate these alleged stories. The word nikah at the time of Muhammad, and even as it is used in common Arabic today, 1400 years later, means only one thing: to have sex with. I leave it to your fertile imagination what it stands for in a vulgar way. Hence, to have sex and to rape were one and the same, since all of them involve the sexual act, while marriage is called zawaj, meaning bringing two together in wedlock. One of the most important verses in Muhammad's Quran, which proves my points, is Al-Ahzab 33.50. O Prophet, we have made lawful unto thee thy wives, azwajaka, unto whom thou hast paid their dowries, and those whom thy right hand possesses, malakat yaminuka, of those whom Allah hath given thee as spoils of war. And a believing woman, if she gives herself in wahabat nafsaha unto the Prophet, and the Prophet desire to have sex with her, yastankihaha, a privilege for thee only, not for the rest of believers. We are aware of that which we enjoined upon them concerning their wives, as wajihim, and those whom their right hand possesses, malakat aymunahum, that thou may be free from blame, for Allah is ever forgiving, merciful. I shall now recite this verse in Arabic, my mother tongue, for those still in doubt. يا أيها النبي إن أحللنا لك أزواجك التي أتيت أجرهن وما ملكت يمينك مما أفاء الله عليك وبنات عمك وبنات عمتك وبنات خالك وبنات خالاتك التي هاجرن معك وامرأة مؤمنة إن وهبت نفسها للنبي إن أراد النبي أن يستنكحها خالصة لك من دون المؤمنين قد علمنا ما فرضنا عليهم في أزواجهم وما ملكت أيمنهم لكي لا يكون عليك حرج وكان الله غفورا رحيما. In the above made to order verses, Allah, the ever obliging God of Muhammad, sanctifies for his protege Muhammad the following females. 1. Women to whom Muhammad gave dower in marriage, zawaj. 2. Those captive women that his God Allah gave to him as 20% of all booty and plunder to do with as he pleased, to rape, to turn into sex slaves, to ransom, or to sell. وَمَا مَلَكَتْ يَمِينُكَ. 3. Any and all women who offer themselves for sex with the superstar Prophet of Arabia. وَأَمْرَأَةَ إِنْ وَهَبَتْ نَفْسَهَا. This third category is not allowed to any male believer other than Muhammad. Even his child bride Aisha of 1400 years ago ingeniously observed. Sahih al-Bukhari, Hadith 6.311, narrated by Aisha. I used to look down upon those ladies who had given themselves to Allah's apostle, and I used to say, can a lady give herself to a man? But when Allah revealed, you, O Muhammad, can postpone the turn of whom you will, of them your wives, and you may receive any of them whom you will, and there is no blame on you if you invite one whose turn you have set aside temporarily. Al-Ahzab 33.51. I said to the Prophet, I feel that your Lord hastens in fulfilling all your wishes and desires. I repeat, even his teenage wife Aisha was perplexed at the alacrity with which Allah very conveniently accommodated Muhammad's wishes and desires whenever he required them by revealing an instant made-to-order verse. Let me start with his first marriage to Khadija. In her case, it was she who proposed marriage to him from a superior financial and social status. Contrary to all the reports of his followers that he loved her, she was a rich 40-year-old and he was a very poor 25 when they got married. Please be aware that all the above dates of births and deaths are estimated and were based on lunar and not solar years. Some Muslim reports say that they were married for 28 years, thus making her 68 years when she died. As a successful and independent woman, she was actually the dominant partner. She died at the estimated ages of 64 or 68, which in the unmerciful climatic and survival conditions of Arabia, she must have become very ugly indeed. Sahih al-Bukhari 5.168, narrated by Abu Hurairah. Aisha said, once Halla bint Khuwaylid, Khadija's sister, asked the permission of the Prophet to enter. On that, the Prophet remembered the way Khadija used to ask permission, and that upset him. He said, "Oh Allah, Halla." So I became jealous and said, what makes you remember an old woman amongst the old women of Quraysh, an old woman with a toothless mouth of red gums, who died long ago, and in whose place Allah has given you somebody better than her? It is no wonder then that after Khadija's death, Muhammad went on a sexual rampage, molesting, enslaving, raping and having sex with every female he desired or needed, starting with his alleged marriage to the child Aisha of 6 years of age, during which time he thied her, according to the Muslim records, and finally raping her at the age of 9. So-called believers and unbelievers try to picture this distasteful historical setting. A 49-year-old man, Muhammad, asked his best friend Abu Bakr if he could have his permission to marry his 6-year-old daughter Aisha. His friend agrees. The man, Muhammad, then visits his best friend's house and speaks with the 6-year-old daughter. Her parents watch as he proposes marriage to the child. He is serious. He wants to marry the little girl and is asking for her consent. The little child says nothing. She only stares at him in silence. I assert that he raped her, because in the Arabic of the time of Muhammad, the word nakahaha is used, which means that he had sex with her. In the vulgar language of today in English, the exact literal translation starts with the letter F. Bukhari Hadith 5.234, narrated by Aisha. The Prophet engaged me when I was a girl of 6. We went to Medina and stayed at the home of Harith Khazraj. Then I got ill and my hair fell down. Later on, my hair grew again, and my mother, Rumman, came to me while I was playing in a swing with some of my girlfriends. She called me and I went to her, not knowing what she wanted to do with me. She caught me by the hand and made me stand at the door of the house. I was breathless then, and when my breathing became all right, she took some water and rubbed my face and head with it. Then she took me into the house. There in the house I saw some Ansari women who said, "Best wishes and Allah's blessing and a good luck." Then she entrusted me to them and they prepared me for the marriage. Unexpectedly, Allah's messenger came to me in the afternoon, and my mother handed me over to him. And at that time, I was a girl of 9 years of age. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask each and every one of you to look at your daughters, sisters, or the daughters of relatives or friends ages 6 to 9, and convince yourselves that it's morally, biologically, intellectually, or logically correct to force or allow any of them to have sex with a man of 49, or of any age for that matter. Even if any girl has achieved puberty at the age of 6 to 11, that does not make her automatically the child of mature intellect enough to know what is right or wrong to give consent. That is why in almost every social human culture, young men and women are considered fit to make relatively rational decisions at ages from 16 onwards and not before. Sahih Muslim 8.3311. Aisha reported that Allah's Apostle married her when she was 7 years old, and she was taken to his house as a bride when she was 9, and her dolls were with her, and when the Prophet died she was 18 years old. Sahih al-Bukhari Hadith 8.151, narrated by Aisha. I used to play with the dolls in the presence of the Prophet, and my girlfriends also used to play with me. When Allah's Apostle used to enter my dwelling place, they used to hide themselves, but the Prophet would call them to join and play with me. The playing with the dolls and similar images is forbidden, but it was allowed for Aisha at that time, as she was a little girl, not yet reached the age of puberty. Fatih al-Bari, page 143, volume 13. Examining the evidence based upon the Muslim exegetes, the following conclusions become valid. 1. Islam allows sex with the pubescent children who are married. 2. Aisha was playing with dolls after she consummated her marriage with Muhammad. 3. Under Islam's rules, female children were allowed to play with dolls because they have not yet entered puberty, i.e., had not had their first menses and became biologically mature. 4. Islam allows the rape of female children by falsely and immorally calling it marriage. Therefore, the only determination that can be made is that Muhammad was having sex with Aisha while still a child, who had neither reached puberty nor had the intellect and comprehension to decide independently. The Quran allows this. Muhammad did this. Aisha stated this, and the scholars of Islam affirmed this. Tragically, Islam's female children have had to deal with this sordid, degenerate, and unholy state of affairs for 1400 years, even unto today.